Elite Facts presents
300 more shower thoughts. If you're one in a million, then there are 7,125 other people exactly like you. Everything you see is delayed. We judge ourselves by our intentions and others by their behaviors. Russia's area is bigger than Pluto's, the planet, not the Disney character. If weights were invariable, the gym would look like a terrible slow-motion rave. Lasers were once the greatest scientific breakthrough in history. Now we use them to play with cats. You're not stuck in traffic, you are the traffic. There's no reason for the alphabet to be in that order. Imagine being completely naked in a room full of people who speak a completely different language than you do, and they all want to touch you. This is the life of a dog. Outdated memes should be called memeries. The back of the knees should be called knee pits. Since we renew every cell in our bodies every 7 years, we're all at most 7 years old. Zombies should be naked from the waist down. All of that weight loss due to dehydration and rot would cause their pants to fall down. People who say, "Don't tell me what to do," are hypocrites. A lethal dose is also a lifetime supply. The best item to protect you from Sasquatch attacks is a camera. Right now, there are millions of formally dressed skeletons buried in the ground. No one has ever been in an empty room. If you step on people's feet, they'll open their mouth just like a trash bin. We should have a holiday called Space Day, where lights are to be shut off for at least an hour at night to reduce light pollution so we can see the galaxy. Most people are buried in suits and stuff, so a zombie apocalypse would be like a formal event. Lighting a birthday cake candle for each year and then blowing them out is a weird ritual that symbolizes how your life will be extinguished. If Chewbacca cannot say Chewbacca, where did they get the word Chewbacca? Alan Rickman would have played an amazing older Kylo Ren. I wonder if they draw Waldo first and then fill everyone around him, or draw everything first and then find somewhere to hide him. As a child, the concept of having a favorite color seemed more important than it turned out to be. Dads who tell dad jokes are actually funny people who had to censor their humor for a younger audience. Having the last name of Down and trying to be a police officer would make the job highly inconvenient for your coworkers. Depression is like when your mind and heart stop loving each other but still eat at the same dinner table together. Being old means referring to 3 a.m. as really early instead of really late. When I was a kid, people got really pissed if you read their diaries. These days, kids put their diaries on the internet and get pissed if you don't read them. Daredevil's super senses mean he's constantly hearing and smelling every possible fart around him. In a city densely populated, he must live in a constant cloud of flatulence. Since nothing really gets removed from it, in about 15 years, the internet will be full of pictures of cats that are dead. You've probably walked past someone in public that you have interacted with on the internet without knowing it. You can send someone a poop emoji, but you can't text with italics. Everyone pulls their phones out of their pockets to check the time. We are reverting to the era of pocket watches. When many people alive today were young, they couldn't use the phone when the internet was on. Now they can't use their phone unless the internet is on. You probably correct autocorrect more than autocorrect corrects you. What if AI built to defeat the Turing test fails on purpose so we don't know how smart it really is? One day, you will be as unfamiliar with technology as your parents are today. Online dating is responsible for an increasing number of marriages. Computer algorithms are starting to breed humans. Lots of Netflix's bandwidth is probably used by unconscious people. Finding an old USB drive with a file on it is modern technology's equivalent to finding a message in a bottle. The phrase "left to our own devices" has taken on a literal meaning in the 21st century. There are people alive today who have never seen a floppy disk, and yet it's still the universal save icon. Teachers used to say we wouldn't have a calculator with us everywhere we went. Well, we do. Using e-cigarettes makes you literally addicted to technology. We stopped using BRB because we don't leave our devices anymore. Books replaced tablets over 1,000 years ago. We've named our entire galaxy after the secretions of a cow's udders. If you're watching a sunset, someone on the other side of the Earth is watching the same sun rise. A ton of people is literally 12 to 15 people. Whenever you dig up dirt or a rock, that could be the first time it's seen the sun in millions of years. If I punched myself in the face and it hurts, does that make me weak or strong? Clapping is just hitting yourself because you like something. When you say forwards or back, your lips move in those directions. The first person to say the word cool must have been really cool because everyone started saying it. Scooby-Doo episodes would be a lot shorter if they just went to the costume store first and asked a couple of questions. Who looked at a bowl of rice and was like, I bet the most efficient way of eating this is with 2 sticks? People argue with me more in my head than they do in real life. The Japanese flag could actually be a pie chart of how much of Japan is Japan. The best high school teachers act like college professors. The worst college professors act like high school teachers. The speed of a clock's second hand is exactly 1 RPM. Self-driving cars are going to exponentially increase the amount of car sex. I got hit by a train in my dream and it woke me up. I got knocked conscious. Casinos should play Monopoly with actual money. 1980s parents owned a huge VHS camcorder and they filmed everything. Now that there's a video camera in their pocket, they film nothing. The moral of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is that no one likes you unless you're useful. we don't appreciate the time that we don't have a cold nearly as much as we should. Thanks to dude, bro, and man, I haven't said my best friend's name to him in 4 years. Taking candy from a baby would actually be a responsible thing to do. Now that millions of people have ditched cable for services like Netflix, millions of children are going to grow up without being as influenced by commercials and the news. The person you're going to spend the rest of your life with is out there creating memories that you'll hear about when you eventually meet them. When the first child is born on Mars, we'll have to add planet of birth to our passports. Most people's first word of the year is happy. Imagine how terrifying horses would be if they were carnivorous. Every day, someone on Earth unknowingly does the biggest poo in the world for that day. Getting another set of teeth would be much more useful at age 60 than age 6. If you had a 3D printer, you could torrent Lego sets. Why do people say tuna fish when they don't say beef mammal or chicken bird? Police should wear red and blue light-up shoes for when they have to chase someone on foot. To dinosaurs, we live in a post-apocalyptic future. Waterboarding at Guantanamo Bay sounds super rad if you don't know what either of those things are. Society has become so civilized that we have to simulate manual labor at the gym in order to reap the health benefits that civilizations of past centuries had to do naturally for a living. Every cell in my body knows how to replicate DNA, yet I'm not in on it, so I have to spend hours studying it. For most of human history, vehicles had automatic collision avoidance and could even take you when you were sleeping or drunk. Then they got rid of horses. Cats are the type of animal that, if they could, they would correct your grammar. When jogging, we put on special clothes so people don't think we're running from or to something. Someone should use screen recording software to record an entire day's worth of working on spreadsheets and post it to YouTube so that I can play it full screen and pretend like I'm working. Hint, hint. The reason why ghosts don't kill people in real life is because if they did, those people would become ghosts and it would become really awkward. Whenever I fuck up bad, I just remember that somewhere an ant just brought borax-laced food back to his queen and killed his entire family. If I was a school teacher, I'd intentionally use memes incorrectly just to drive the little shits crazy. Fishing would be a lot less popular if fish could scream. Teenagers drive like they have limited time, and old people drive like they have all the time in the world. Whenever I type etc., it usually means I'm completely out of examples. Weird Al Yankovic has managed to remain culturally relevant far longer than most of the people he's parodied. Gyms should offer a membership package where you pay for every day that you don't go. I wish I could wipe current thoughts from my mind like I can close running apps on my phone. Naming a cat Meow automatically makes it able to introduce itself. Whoever decided beards were unprofessional probably couldn't grow one. Imagine getting a barcode tattoo so that if they find your body and scan it, they'd get rickrolled. Telling someone that changing subjects in a conversation is your fetish would put them in a very awkward position. Minors have less freedom to do legal things, but more freedom to do illegal things. When aliens really attack Earth, my first thought is probably going to be, which movie or game came closest? I'm bored when I listen to a song from my personal music library, but when it's played on the radio, I get excited. Making fun of a fat person at the gym is like making fun of a homeless person at a job fair. Dogs probably destroy shoes because they see humans put them on before they leave the house. Bullets are the only things that do their job only after they've been fired. Who's crazier, a man who believes he has a talking dog or a man who consistently ignores great advice from his dog? Humans require years of training to not shit themselves. There's a little under 500 billionaires on this planet, and not a single one of them has decided to become Batman. If you were born 1 year earlier or later, you would have had a completely different set of friends at school, and as a result, you would probably have become a very different person. Packs of gum should have a different flavor so you can try different kinds without having to commit to a whole new pack. A ton of cows is not a lot of cows. Would a fly that traveled with you to a different state be accepted by the local flies? Candlelit dinners weren't so special before the light bulb was invented. After cleaning your browser history, there should be an option to have it filled with random normal websites instead of it being all empty. Lollipops are so weird, you're basically swallowing your flavored saliva. There's no point to having an eject button on the DVD remote. Why is it there? If your significant other is deaf, holding their hand is like saying, "I love you, but please shut up." I wish that instead of burning them slowly, I could use up all of my fat cells at once on one insane feat of athleticism. If snails are so slow, why don't we ever see them coming? It's like, boom, there's a snail. It's not that surprising that meowing at cats elicits a surprised response. Imagine if a cat walked by you and said something random like, "democracy." Emoticons sounds like a group of sensitive transformers. If a baby is born at 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in New York, 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time the previous day, and a baby is born 1 hour later in Los Angeles, 11 p.m. PST, 2 a.m. EST, the second child born is legally older, while actually being 1 hour younger. What seriously blows my mind is that NASA is able to receive data from a spacecraft that's 4.67 billion miles away, but people can still lose a Wi-Fi signal once they move to the kitchen. You can only visualize a gallon in the shape of a milk jug, can't you? The easiest way to enrage someone is to tell them to relax. Antarctica must have the highest average IQ of any continent. Parents spend the first 20 years scaring their kids into not getting pregnant, and the next 20 wondering why they won't. Girl Scouts is basically a brand name cookie company that gets away with child labor. When your dog keeps bringing you the same toy, does it mean that it's his favorite toy, or does he think it's your favorite toy? Mosquitoes are like dirty used needles that can fly. I haven't heard a damn thing about acid rain since high school. Deadpool should have leaked a fake version of the film where it's just Deadpool playing with action figures reenacting the entire film. Sweater is kind of a gross name for a piece of clothing. The first woman to ever have twins must have been really confused. If we found ants as they existed here on Earth on another planet, we'd consider them a civilization. It's weird how my brain automatically reads WTF as what the fuck, but still reads LOL as LOL. Talking to people on the internet in the 1990s meant I was a loser with no friends. Not talking to people on the internet now means I'm a loser with no friends. Whoever designed the headphone jack really knocked it out of the park. Universal compatibility for several decades now. Kanye West should have waited until Taylor Swift was accepting her Grammy and then released his new album as she started her speech. People claim with surprise that Eskimos have 100 words for snow and ignore that makeup companies have 1,000 words for light brown. I imagine my browser eye rolling every time I open a new incognito tab. Sleeping in is considered lazy, but going to bed early is not. We built an atomic bomb 20 years before we had color television. You're totally blind for hours every day, but saccadic masking renders you totally unaware of it. If you're lucky, your internal organs will never see the light of day. Electrons actually pass through wires very slowly. The reason it seems quick is the same reason as if you had a tube full of marbles and you pushed another one in, one would nearly instantly pop out the other end. Dogs are great because they could rip you apart and eat you, but they don't because they want belly rubs instead. If I owned a taser, I'd probably get curious to see how it feels and taser myself, and that's why I don't have a taser. IMDb should have a can be confused for section for actors. If there were people who could read minds, they would hear an awful lot of songs sung with incorrect words and likely very out of tune or rhythm. If I was teleported to the Middle Ages, I'd have no idea how to recreate any current technology. I have no physical evidence which day of the week today is. I just take everyone's word for it that they've kept count since the first one ever. Mummies are just upper-class zombies. If Wile E. Coyote had enough money to buy all that Acme stuff, why didn't he just buy dinner? Considering how there's no traces of humans in the film, The Lion King could be set in any era. It could be the Bronze Age, the 21st century, or a cyborg future where humanity has gone extinct. You know it's time to check your bank account when you're too afraid to check your bank account. Waking up with a hangover is like rebooting in safe mode. The main functions still work, but it's impossible to get anything else done. Car horns should only be allowed to be in pitches C, E, and G, so whenever two people honk at the same time, it'll be in harmony and traffic jams would sound like symphonies. The song Hotel California is basically a bad Yelp review and a 3-minute guitar solo. We should put the first Avengers movie into a probe and launch it into space to confuse the shit out of aliens who stumble on it. After more than 2,000 years of technological advances, girls are still wearing the same sandals used in ancient Rome. Touch-free soap dispensers are pretty pointless if the soap actually works. Almost every hand you've ever shaken has had a dick in it. My friend asked to use a USB port to charge his cigarette, but I was using it to charge my book. The future is stupid. Canadians are so nice, they didn't even have to fight for independence from the British. They just asked for it nicely and got it. Spider-Man would be way less cool if he wasn't living in a city full of skyscrapers. To aliens, Earth must look like that desperate loser that keeps sending messages nobody responds to and can't take a hint. The DMV should make keychain-sized driver's licenses so nobody can drive without carrying their licenses by accident. YouTube should have the opposite of a subscriber button that makes channels disappear from your feed completely. Websites should post their password requirements on their login pages so I can remember what the F I needed to do to my normal password to make it work on their site. Technically speaking, wouldn't your best friend be your worst enemy? How did hamsters ever survive in the wild? The human brain is one of the most complex things known to man, according to the human brain. There are more bacterial cells in your body than human cells. 1,000,000 seconds is 11 days. 1,000,000,000 seconds is 31 years. If you properly shuffle a pack of cards, chances are that exact order has never been seen before in the whole history of the universe. If we were eyeless, we'd be unaware of color. Well, what if we're missing some part of reality because we don't have the organ to detect it? The fact that there's a highway to hell and only a stairway to heaven says a lot about human morality. Spilling a beer is the adult equivalent of letting go of a balloon. What if the reason we don't see aliens is because the Earth is a rare sanctuary and the alien sightings are just trespassing tourists? Turning up the volume is like zooming in, but with sound. Bowling should be called pinball. It must suck when billionaires wake up feeling like $1,000,000. Dogs are the wolves who sold out to the man. I wonder if birds on my feeder are friends or if it's like a public bathroom and no one makes eye contact. The more serious a relationship gets, the more casual it is. Apple has air, Amazon has fire, Google has earth. I think Microsoft should create something called water. Can I help you? Really means, you look suspicious. Who are you and what are you doing here? What if every country has ninjas, but we only know about the Japanese ones because they're rubbish? If steroids are illegal for athletes, then Photoshop should be illegal for models. I drive safer when there's food on my passenger seat than when there's a person sitting there. The entire purpose of a bayonet is to bring a knife to a gunfight. Centaurs have 2 rib cages. I wonder how many places I've already visited for the last time. The only time the word incorrectly isn't spelled incorrectly is when it's spelled incorrectly. If you did something like a boss, you'd probably just pay someone else to do it. If you view a bald eagle at the zoo, you're looking at the American symbol of freedom in captivity. If Katniss and Peeta from Hunger Games were Hollywood celebrities, their super couple nickname would either be Cat Pee or Penis. Asking someone, "Where are you?" is a recent thing. Before we had mobile phones, the only way we could talk to people is if we knew where they were. Mars is populated entirely by robots. If your shirt isn't tucked into your pants, then your pants are tucked into your shirt. Newborns are always crying because any discomfort is literally the worst thing they've ever experienced. The word fat just looks like someone took a bite out of the first letter of the word eat. Maybe Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader isn't a show that displays how stupid grown-up adults can be, but rather a show that depicts how much useless information we teach grade schoolers that won't be retained or applicable later in life. The Swiss must have been pretty confident in their chances of victory if they included a corkscrew on their army knife. Everyone actually has three voices: the one in your head, the one you hear when you talk, and the one that everyone else hears instead. In order to fall asleep, you have to pretend to be asleep. Maybe mate is short for inmate, and that's why Australians call each other that. You know, because it was originally just a bunch of convicts. The person who would proofread Hitler's speeches was a grammar Nazi. How far back in history do you have to go before it's considered archaeology instead of grave robbing? I will be the last person to die in my lifetime. There should be an optional "people are sleeping" button on the microwave to stop from all the extra loud beeping. Unless you're a celebrity, Twitter is like talking to yourself in a crowded room. The witches from Sabrina having a cat named Salem is like a Jewish family having a cat named Auschwitz. Nothing is on fire, fire is on things. When you bite down on something, you're actually biting up because you can't move your top jaw. If people on a planet 65 million light years away looked at Earth, they'd see dinosaurs. History classes are only going to get longer and harder as time goes on. Fat chance and slim chance mean the same thing. Family Guy is 90% Seth MacFarlane talking to himself. If humans could fly, we'd consider it exercise and never do it. Once you have a PhD, every meeting you go to becomes a doctor's appointment. If Homer Simpson were a Democratic congressman from Springfield, Ohio, he'd be Homer Simpson, DOH. Dope! Ellen should give away more stuff like Oprah and rename her show Ellen DeGeneres. When you drink alcohol, you're just borrowing happiness from tomorrow. The iconic alien is to us what we are to apes: small, pale, big-headed, and with unfathomable technology. We even abduct them for medical experiments. The sinking of the Titanic must have been a miracle to the lobsters in the kitchen. Being attracted to your own flaccid penis would be the worst fetish ever. If you rip a hole in a net, there's actually fewer holes in it than there were before. Your stomach thinks all potato is mashed. Most teenagers pull their phones out of their pockets to check the time. We're reverting back to the era of pocket watches. If I touch my phone in the right places, a pizza will show up at my door. When a pregnant woman swims, she's a human submarine. The idea of a ghost that moans may have been started by children whose parents were having sex in the adjacent room and denied having heard the sounds. If you're no longer covered by your parents' health insurance, your manufacturer's warranty is over. For most of human history, vehicles had automatic collision avoidance and could even take you home when you were sleeping or drunk. Then we got rid of horses. I wonder what my dog named me. Despite being an island, Antarctica has no south coast, only one big north coast. I bet attractive people think the world is a lot more polite than it really is. Superman's build should be thin and scrawny because nothing is heavy enough to offer him a proper resistance workout. Using your old laptop to research buying a new one is like asking it to dig its own grave. Art is how we decorate space. Music is how we decorate time. Your shadow is a confirmation that light has traveled nearly 93 million miles unobstructed, only to be deprived of reaching the ground in the final few feet thanks to you. Go to bed, you'll feel better in the morning is the human version of did you turn it off and turn it back on again? No How I Made $1 Million books include the author starting their journey to wealth by reading a book about how to make $1 million. Trying to get rich by playing the lottery is like trying to commit suicide by flying on commercial airlines. Centaurs have 2 rib cages. To the dinosaurs, we live in a post-apocalyptic future. At age 30, you've spent a month having birthdays. A mile a minute sounds way faster than 60 miles an hour. Yeah, I wonder what people who type U instead of YOU do with all their free time. The news is basically just someone saying good evening and then giving you a list of reasons why it's not. If you could literally be bored to death, I bet the world would be a lot more interesting. Are all the guys in a boy band singing about or to the same girl? If so, that's a little creepy and weird. A male lunch lady is a lunch lord. I wonder how many thousands of dollars I've missed out on in special effects in movies by blinking. I wonder if my cat thinks the delivery guy is my owner because he gives me food. As an adult, I'm not eating nearly as much ice cream as 10-year-old me thought I would. The name of the band Gorillaz is a pun because a group of gorillas is called a band. Pac-Man was the first survival game with the undead chasing you. If I save up all my dryer lint, I could spin it back into yarn and knit myself a sweater that's the average color of my entire wardrobe. In Japan, radiation creates monsters, like Godzilla, and in America, radiation creates superheroes. If you got your tongue stuck in a mousetrap, you'd start pronouncing it mouthtrap, and that's also what it would be, and that's pleasing. Why aren't iPhone chargers called apple juice? In sign language, arthritis is a speech impediment. No matter how many kids are waiting to see Santa, you can't open up another line with a second Santa. A mannequin is a man akin. I wonder if a murderer has ever crossed my path, contemplated murdering me, and then thought, nah. Anakin Skywalker, over the course of 6 movies, lost 5 of his 4 limbs in 3 duels. I wonder if my dog always follows me into the bathroom when I have to go potty because I always follow him outside when he does, and he just thinks that's how it works. We will never hear about the truly perfect crime. Why don't Jedis turn off their opponents' lightsabers by force pressing the button? Dog food could say it's any flavor it wants. You're not going to taste it. I never realized how short a month is until I started paying rent. A bachelor party is more appropriate after a divorce than before a wedding. I'm convinced most of the adults who told me Wiki is unreliable now use viral Facebook posts for their news sources. Having a creative password is really unfortunate because as much as you want to, you can't tell anyone about it. If you go to jail for tax evasion, you're living off of taxes as a result of not paying taxes. Journalism has gotten to the point where readers are criticized for not fact-checking news articles. If you aren't at least a little ashamed of your country's history, you don't know about your country's history. My standard of living is far greater than that of a king in medieval times. Vampires don't like sunlight but are okay with moonlight, which is actually reflected sunlight. Out of all 7 billion people alive, someone, somewhere in the world, qualifies as the worst human alive. Harry Potter named his kids like some geek who's obsessed with Harry Potter. Eventually, the human race will develop to a point where we shoot sci-fi films in actual outer space. All the guys from Pawn Stars should compete on an episode of The Price is Right. Between the coffee and the cocaine, it looks like the mission of Columbia is to wake the world up. The healthiest marriage in TV history is between Gomez and Morticia Addams. Botox could be considered a performance-enhancing drug for poker players. If looks like $1 million is a compliment in the United States, I bet it wouldn't work in Britain. Does this dress make me look fat? No, honey, you look like £1 million. When I get to the bottom of a Life cereal box, am I eating the pieces of broken lives? Humans spend the first 18 or more years of their lives getting caught up to speed about what the other humans have been doing for the past few thousand years. Ugly Christmas sweaters were only interesting when they weren't intentional. Ugly Christmas sweater parties essentially killed ugly Christmas sweater parties. The only way to prove that someone can die is by killing them, and there's no way of knowing if someone is immortal unless we try to kill them. So, is everyone immortal until proven mortal? If Kanye runs for president and wins, Taylor Swift should grab a mic and interrupt his inaugural address. The only reason I look at a bad driver after I pass them is to see if I can confirm a stereotype.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more Elite Facts.